Okay, we should be live with the long anticipated X870E Nova Wi-Fi, the Phantom Gaming from ASRock. This is the motherboard that people have been asking me about constantly. So we're going to be taking a look at how the game runs with this motherboard. Hold on, let me put this thing over here to make this a little bit more in focus because it's so... does that help? That still seems... oh, I know why, because it's looking at the... there we go, that's more in focus. So this is the build. Hold on. Hey, Mark. Yeah. Originally, I was going to probably do this on Wednesday. But I've been meaning to do a live stream featuring a mid-range older computer with Monster Hunter Wilds just to show how the game runs in that scenario. So that was what I was supposed to live stream on, but we'll probably do that next. So because of the content on the Nova, I kind of wanted to see like how this motherboard stacks up against a much more expensive motherboard. But it does look like this motherboard is incredibly high-end despite the price. So don't let the low sticker price of $350 fool you. This motherboard basically has everything that's needed. So just to kind of show things here, let me make this larger. So the Nova is a $350 motherboard. And this AIO here is like a no-name brand. I didn't even know it existed until I went into Micro Center, and I was like, "What's the cheapest 360 AIO that you've got?" And the sales guy was like, "Well, I sold like a King Cool last week, and so far it wasn't returned, so it must be okay." So I was like, okay, I'll get one of these, the King Cool. So this is the King Cool. The cool thing about it, although I don't think it's really that cool, is it uses the AMD mounting brackets, the clips that come with the motherboard. So it's kind of hard to say. I'm trying to figure out how to fix the lighting in here. What if I bring this like way... oh, there we go. That's better. Okay. So it uses the stock AMD AM5 mounting brackets that ship with the motherboard, and you don't have to remove them if you install the King Cool, but it is very challenging to get installed. It's very finicky. Those of you who have ever mounted a Wraith Prism or a Wraith Max air cooler, like the AMD official high-end cooler, it's kind of like installing one of those, except it's a little bit more annoying because it has... well, we'll see. If I ever do a live stream build video featuring the King Cool, you guys will know what I mean when it comes to installing the King Cool. Because this part right here, that screw and the one above it, are kind of hard to get lined up with the stock brackets on the motherboard. So that's the only thing that's annoying about it. But so far, the cooler seems to be doing good. It was a relatively cheap cooler. It's significantly less money than your typical Corsair or your EK or, you know, the NZXT Kraken. All those name brand AIOs. You know, you can't get a deep cool anymore. And this thing is cheaper than the deep cool LT720 that I had. So... someone from DBZ franchise named this CPU cooler. Yeah, well, not King Cold, King Cool. It's kind of, it's almost like a ripoff, yeah. But yeah, so that is it. That is the cooler. You can see it is a 360 AIO, complete with triple RGB fans. So this cooler is like $80. $80 for a 360 AIO that comes with full RGB. Even RGB on the fans. That's pretty good considering I paid, I think, $100 for the Deep Cool LT720 back when I built the Threadripper computer back in late 2023. So that was like, a year and a half ago now. So I think this was a pretty good deal. Only time will tell if the pump holds up. I think the reality is most of these AIOs are using the same Asetek pump. I have no idea if Deep Cool is using something different, but so far it seems to be okay. Now, you guys know I'm not a super huge fan of liquid cooling. I prefer air cooling whenever possible, but I wanted to build something that had the looks of a high-end system, and the air coolers, as good as they are, they just don't look that impressive when you're trying to show a high-end build. So we went with the King Cool. Even though the King Cool is significantly cheaper than like a Noctua D15, it does perform relatively good. So I would say like $80 for an AIO like this, considering it's a 360 AIO. It doesn't have the thickest radiator. The radiator is not like the thick one like the EK, but it is pretty good. It is comparable to the Corsair Nautilus, which we will be looking at in future content. So we got another AIO on the way. So this evening, we're going to be looking at the King Cool with the Nova, and this is cooling the 9800X3D. So we are back in control. Our scouts report, just like in Age of Empires style, our scouts report that we are back in control of the 9800X3D. After using the 9950X3D for several days now, I just couldn't stop. I had to pull myself away from the 9950X3D because it got so bad that I was literally doing everything on that one computer, including editing the videos that are currently up on the channel. Meaning I was not using Threadripper, I was not using the Godlike, no. I was using the 9950X3D with that computer that we've been live streaming on for the last couple of streams now. So I just can't pull myself away from the 9950X3D. 9950X3D is the king. It is the king of CPUs right now. So, but the 9800X3D is very energy efficient. Like you guys can see on the screen here, it's only pulling like 50 something watts. Now, granted, I have the game currently capped to 60 frames per second, so it will pull up to 80 watts once fully loaded. But the 9800X3D is a very nice CPU in the sense that it doesn't generate a lot of heat. You can see that the ASRock motherboard with that wonderful postcode is showing the temperature on the debug window. So without an AIO that shows you the temperature on the AIO, because this one, obviously the King Cool doesn't have anything fancy on it, the ASRock Nova shows us the operating temperature. So let's see if we diffuse some of this light here. Yeah, there we go. So 50 degrees Celsius, and it tracks with what we're seeing on the overlay. So 50 degrees in software, 50 degrees on the postcode debug. So really, really nice motherboard. Very, very satisfied with it. It lives up to its reputation as an S-tier motherboard. So far, I've been using it for a couple of days now, testing it with various different applications, and it is a wonderful motherboard. 5 M.2 slots, $350, full PCIe Gen 5 X16 to the graphics card, full PCIe Gen 5 for the top M.2 in there. So really, really good motherboard. And we will be doing some memory overclocking content on this motherboard. I've already seen the comments in the YouTube video. People are asking about 4 sticks of memory and all that stuff. We will be doing 4 sticks of memory on the Nova. So stay tuned for that. I used to have the monitor in the description of my video. I probably need to add it back. Hold on, let me get the monitor real quick. I'll add the monitor to the description, and it should be in here. I don't know why I removed it. Hold on. Or wait, is it in there? Oh, it is in the description of the video. It is in the description of the video. So if you want to know what monitor I'm using, look at the description of the video and look under the section 4K monitor and capture card. It's the OLED monitor listed there. That's the monitor that we're using right now. Yeah, the nice thing about the AIO is that it's very inexpensive. $80. $80 for the King Cool. And it's a full 360 AIO on top of that. So, oh, I guess one other thing to show here. We are using the GeForce RTX. I'm trying to light back on. GeForce RTX is in the house after a long absence of no GeForce. Complete Radeon dominance. Complete with Ryzen dominance. Ryzen has been dominating the CPU market. Man, everybody is crazy about Ryzen. I've seen so many like build videos from all the large YouTube channels. Like Paul's Hardware just did a like a build video with the 9950X3D. Linus did the 9950X3D, I think, like a while back. I think 9950X he also did. But yeah, the man, it's like everyone's just upgrading. Digital Foundry also, all of them, they're just straight up upgrading. Rich is going to the 9950X3D. Man, 9950X3D is just utter insanity right now. Like, because you can actually buy one. See, the problem is you can't buy an RTX 50 series graphics card, nor can you buy a 9070 XT. So the only thing you can actually buy at MSRP right now that's new is the 9950 X3D. And that CPU is the king of everything. It is so good. It is so, like I said earlier, I cannot pull myself away from the 9950 X3D computer that I built. It's like I default to using it for literally everything now. To the point where Threadripper feels redundant, the 9950X definitely feels redundant, and the 9800 X3D also feels like weak by comparison, because you guys know that I do a lot of productivity stuff, so more so than gaming. The only time that I'm gaming is when you guys see me live streaming games like this. So most of the time, for me, it's productivity. And that is where the 9950 X3D just straight up dominates. It is utter domination. It is literally a one-way street right now in terms of how good that CPU is. And the nice thing about it, you don't have to sacrifice on, you don't have to compromise on gaming performance. It has top-tier gaming performance. And there are ways to tweak it to get even better gaming performance and even better multi-thread performance. So that CPU is just so far out in front of everything else that it's like, it finally feels like we are in a new hardware generation, at least on the CPU side. So props to AMD, because AMD has been really hitting win after win, especially if you look at what they're doing in mobile. If you're looking at the Strix Halo, for example, my next laptop, my next like high-end desktop replacement laptop is definitely going to be a Strix Halo laptop, a Ryzen AI Max or Ryzen AI Max Plus. So fantastic stuff that we're seeing. So here we have the NVIDIA graphics card, as you guys can see. This is the none other than the RTX 4080 Super. The Super Duper Founders Edition. Just to show the Founders Edition RTX 4080 Super. It's funny how this card felt so irrelevant a year ago when it was new, and now all of a sudden this GPU, because the 50 series is so dumb, this graphics card feels more than relevant. It's like one of the more sought after graphics cards now, which is insane because it isn't even new anymore. It's last gen. But it looks so good. It is so efficient. It is so quiet. It is just a wonderful looking graphics card. The triple slot Founders Edition 4080 Super in that jet black style, combined with the Nova and the 9800X3D and the G-Skill Trident Z5 Neo Expo DDR5 6400. These are dual rank 48 gigabyte DIMMs, so a total of 96 gigabytes of RAM. That is how we do things on this channel. You know me, we don't do 32 gigabyte RAM. That is so 5 years ago. And we definitely sometimes do 48 gigabytes if we care about high speeds, like 8000 for example. But we basically skip over 64 because it's so last gen at this point. You know, I was rocking 64 gigs back in the days of the 5800X. So like I've been at 64 gigs for so long that to me 96 gigabytes is where it's at. But this is it. The Nova finally here, teaming up with the RTX 4080 Super. So I think it was the right move for me to get one of these from Best Buy around launch time last, what was it, January, February when this thing came out last year? But anyway, that is the computer hardware. Oh, I forgot one thing. The case, you guys have seen me building this case before. It is the NZXT. This is the NZXT H7 Flow, the 2024 edition, and I've added these Montech 140mm RGB fans for intake. So we have Montech fans, we have King Cool 360 IO, ASRock Nova 9800X3D, G-Skill 96 gigabytes running at 6400, and an RTX 4080 Super to top things off. And the power supply, for those really wanting to know everything that's in this computer, the power supply is a Corsair RM850X, I believe. It's an 850 watt power supply. So the case is really good. It has intake from the bottom, sucking in all that air from the carpeted floor, so that's really nice. And the power supply is on the back, so it pulls in air from the back of the, like from the side, the back side of the case, you guys can't see. So the power supply actually sits vertically down in there. It's literally behind this panel. You can't see it, but it's turned up on its side. It's not flat. So the fan on the power supply is all the way on the back side of the case, not the rear of the case, the other side of the case, the side opposite the glass panel. So that's pretty much what we're working with for the ASRock Nova. This is going to be my test bench machine. So this is what I will use for GPU comparison videos going forward. So for example, if we're going to do a comparison video with a 9070 XT versus the 4080 Super, for example, this will be the system that I use to test those things. I will not be taking apart my computer that I just built for the weekend gaming live streams. So this computer is not... So you guys won't see me live streaming on this computer. That's why this is kind of like a special exclusive stream, where once we do this, it's like one, and then you might not see the Nova again unless it's like featured in GPU comparison videos or something like that. So this is it. The Nova is finally here. You have the case. Get more dusty, but it doesn't. But it's okay to have to wipe the outside every 2 weeks. Oh yeah, it doesn't have dust filters. That is one thing that it doesn't have. It just has a lot of mesh panels. Trying old new games on it too. What are you talking about? Oh, the 9070 XT. 9070 XT is amazing. Man, that's an amazing GPU. That GPU is probably going to win GPU of the year. Because it's the whole package. It brings the value proposition. It brings the price point down for most gamers to be able to afford one. So it's, yeah, to me, like I said this last time, I'll say it, this is the third time I'll say this. Think of the 9070 XT as a 4080. It's an RTX 4080 for $600. So if you don't think that's a good deal, then you're probably not someone that should be building computers. Like, or I don't know what the deal is. Like, whatever you consider a good deal. But as far as I'm concerned, an RTX 4080 for $600 is a good deal. That's $100 less than a PS5 Pro. Now, granted, it's not an entire computer. It's just one component. But still, it allows you to game at 4K if you so choose. You can leverage FSR4, which is equivalent to DLSS. So, and it has much better ray tracing performance than the previous AMD generation. And it uses less electricity than the 7900 XTX while performing almost the same in most games. It's a few percentage points slower than the XTX, but it also uses less power and it has better ray tracing.
I have the CPPC options on the Meg Ace. I have set it to prefer cache, and apparently it works better than game mode on Wilds.
Yes. Yes, it does. It works a little... Well, hold on. So you're saying it works better than game mode? That's different from what I found. I tested mine with CPPC, and it's almost identical to game mode. But for me, game mode was a little bit faster than prefer cache. It was like to the tune of like 0.5%, maybe 1% in a given benchmark run. I found game mode to be a little bit faster than CPPC. But the thing is, CPPC, in my opinion, if you're doing multiple things with your computer while also playing Monster Hunter or any game for that matter, I think CPPC sets of caches better than game mode. Overall. It may win some, it may lose some, but I think it's the more consistent way to use the CPU rather than using like half the CPU while playing the game, and then every time you alt tab it like shuffles everything around. So I prefer the CPPC option to make it always prefer the cache regardless of what you're doing, and that way it overrides the scheduler and you don't need game mode to be enabled. So to me, that's probably what I would recommend for running that CPU. And that's probably what I'll end up doing with the Nova, because the Nova has the option. Oh, by the way, yeah, I saw your comment about this in the Meg Ace. You left it on one of the YouTube videos. Yeah, I did find it in the Godlike. The thing that I found out from MSI is if you do not have a X3D CPU installed, the setting is hidden, meaning it's not visible to the user if you have a non-X3D CPU. And in my case, I had a 9950X installed and I was looking through the BIOS and I couldn't find the setting. I come to find out, I go and I swap to my old 7950X3D, and sure enough, the Godlike has the settings. So I was able to find them. But you have to have an X3D CPU. What's weird, so I don't know if you install a single CCD, like a 9800 X3D, for example, in the Godlike, will it show the CPP setting? Because ASRock shows it. Like, I went into ASRock's BIOS. I mean, the video's on the channel today talking about CPPC, and clearly it's there, despite the fact that I only have a 9800 X3D installed, not a dual CCD. So maybe that's an MSI thing where it doesn't show all the settings depending on what CPU you have. That's just something that I found interesting. But But now, because of that, I have to take back what I said about MSI the other day, where I was saying how, oh, MSI is in last place because they're missing a bunch of settings. No, they do have the settings, but they don't expose them to you unless you have a CPU that can benefit from those settings. I guess that's the reasoning. Although, I still prefer that they would give you the settings regardless of what CPU you have installed, because that just simplifies things. If people don't have to second guess the BIOS. Well, Process Lasso... See, the reason why I don't like Process Lasso is because I don't like having to run a third-party software program to do something like that. I don't like having to install extra pieces of software to make the computer behave a way that it should behave by default. So, I mean, I'll consider it, but what I'll probably do, I will do a comparison with CPPC versus game mode, and also versus the Core Flex from Asus. The Core Flex from Asus is basically the same. From what I can tell, Core Flex is very similar to CPPC. The only difference is it's an Asus thing, so it's not running from the Agisa firmware specification. It's like Asus is running its own algorithm on the firmware instead of using the one from AMD. That's the only difference between Core Flex. So I might do a video, Core Flex versus CPPC, Prefer Cache versus game mode. Those three, I will probably do that, because the idea behind that video would be like, hey, there's 3 different ways to get the best performance. These are the comparison results between them. Process Lasso is one that I prefer not to include Process Lasso, because I don't like having to install a third-party application to correct, we'll say, the behavior. Like, to me, that's not very appealing. I would prefer that set it in the BIOS, let the firmware handle it, and we're good to go. Like that, I prefer that. That I can do, but the software stuff, I don't like doing that. Not that I don't have anything against Process Lasso, it's just like, why do I need to install a piece of software when, you know, the product should just work the way it's supposed to? And the nice thing about the BIOS setting, makes it so that you don't even need to worry about anything. Like, you don't even need to install, you don't even need to do anything with game mode. Like, that's why I like the BIOS settings the most, because it's the most simple way to extract the best performance. You can find the option in case it doesn't show NVRAM. Okay, so let's just kind of do a comparison here. So we're running the game on the 9800X3D. How do we have this game set up? So we are running with the NVIDIA DLSS 3.7.10 or 1.0, 3.7.1 or 0.10. This requires an RTX 40 series graphics card and have enabled hardware accelerated GPU scheduling, which basically means you need to be on Windows 11. You can do this with Windows 10, but it doesn't work properly when you switch between the various modes with frame generation. You can crash your game if you're on Windows 10, especially if you're on an older RTX graphics card and trying to use FSR. That is a known issue. For example, the 3080, 3080 Ti, 3090, 3090 Ti. If those cannot use DLSS at all in this game, wait, no, that's not right. They can't. You know, no, I'm referring to frame gen. Yes, they can use DLSS, but they cannot use DLSS frame gen. So they have to rely on FSR 3 based frame gen. And if you try to if you're on Windows 10 and you're on RTX 30 series, and you try to turn on FSR 3 frame gen, your game will crash. This is like a known issue. So there's a whole bunch of people that were watching my open beta test stream that were coming into the stream. They're like, how are you not crashing every time you switch frame gen on and off? especially with the overlay running. And I told them, I mean, I don't know. It's probably because I'm on Windows 11, and Windows 11 has the full support for hardware accelerated GPU scheduling, also known as HAGs. So, and sure enough, that's what it was, because I had one person in the chat literally upgraded to Windows 11, and the problem was solved immediately. So, the days of Windows 10 are definitely numbered. Support for Windows 10 is ending in October of this year. So if you're not on Windows 11, you need to get on Windows 11 real soon. As far as I'm concerned, I was someone who held out for a long time, staying on Windows 10, but I'll be real, guys. Windows 11 is way better than Windows 10 now. Like, Windows 10 feels so old by comparison. All the development effort has gone into Windows 11. You guys need to get on Windows 11 if you're still on Windows 10. But yeah, anyway, so that's just like a public service announcement for those of you on RTX 30 series wondering why your game is crashing every time you try to turn on frame gen. So we're doing frame gen because it's a 4080, and a 4080 must use frame gen for this game. Upscaling mode, we are set to quality because the 4080 cannot do native 4K. It just can't do it. It's not powerful enough. It doesn't have enough VRAM for one thing. We are currently running, we are using 12. Oh wait, I just realized something. I'm not showing the VRAM. The VRAM is not showing on the overlay. I need to add it real quick. We are currently using 12 gigabytes of VRAM. It says 10, but it actually says 12 in Task Manager. So, and we're not even using the highest texture pack. So let's turn on the highest texture pack. Oh dear, now we're using 14 gigs of VRAM. So I don't know if we're just going to start stuttering. We'll leave it like this for now and hope that it works. In fact, we're just going to set this to Ultra. So we have the highest texture pack, and everything now is maxed out. And we are using 4K resolution, and we are doing NVIDIA DLSS quality, which means 1440p upscaled to 4K. So the 4080 can handle this game at 1440p. And then we have turned on frame gen for good measure, because frame gen is kind of a requirement for this game. And there you go, 92 frames per second average in the town. It does dip. It's dipping because of the VRAM, though. And I have a feeling when we get into a fight, we're going to have some terrible hitching because of the VRAM. The same problem happens with the 9070 XT, because both of these graphics cards only have 16 gigabytes of VRAM, and we really need to have at least 18 to 20 gigabytes of VRAM for this game to function properly at 4K output resolution. So we definitely, this is definitely not a 4K graphics card for that reason, at least for Monster Hunter Wilds with the highest texture pack. So the way to fix that is to not use highest textures, to set it too high, and now we will have much smoother, consistent performance. All right, let's do, hold on, did I claim my daily? Login bonus. This is a live service game, just like Helldivers 2, so you need to log in every single day and claim your daily thing. That's how they get people playing. And then we need to, today is Tuesday, which means the dailies have, or the weeklies have reset. So you gotta go talk to this Palico here. And there we go. Limited bounty has been updated because it's Tuesday. And there we go. These are the weeklies. Complete 5 quests, 1 star or higher. That's low rank or better. 3 in the plains. 5 flying wyvern. 3 tempered. Okay, so basically fight Arkveld like 5 times in the plains and 3 tempered Arkvelds and you're done. So pretty easy stuff. Pretty easy stuff. Can you push 4060 to... Okay, well, let's see what some people are saying here. There's a lot of comments. What is the equivalent of X3D gaming mode on Asus? It's just gaming mode. It's just X3D gaming mode. All of them use the same thing. It's the same feature from AMD. Or it's like an AMD recommended feature. No, Monster Hunter Wilds does not have DLSS 4. You've been using Windows 11 for 3+ years? Yeah. I've been using... When did I switch to Windows 11? I switched to Windows 11 in... Was it 2023? I think it was 2 years ago. It was like 2023 was when I made the switch. Yeah, I tried to hold out as long as possible. At least on the main computer. I had like one computer on Windows 11 for a while. But the rest of them were all Windows 10. And then finally I switched over. You know what made me switch? Notepad. The tabbed Notepad in Windows 11 made it so that I don't really feel like I need to install Notepad++ on every single one of my computers. Yeah, if you want to play at 4K, realistically, you can do 4K in this game with the 5070 Ti and the 9070 XT. I mean, clearly, I've been showing the 9070 XT playing this game at 4K for a while. Several streams now. But the problem is, because those cards are 16 gigabyte cards, you can't do... you can't use the high texture pack. Oh, I got one. I got a big one, too. A big one. That one came out of nowhere. Whoa. Arowana. A burst arowana. See, that's what I'm talking about right there. This is Monster Hunter. It even has fishing.
Welcome back, Hunter. It seems you enjoyed a bit of fishing. Oh, I can tell.
The highest textures versus high barely makes a difference. It barely makes a difference. It does help the background. The distant background, like textures on mountains and things, do look a little bit better on highest textures. But in terms of like the character models and their clothing, highest texture barely looks different from high texture.
I'll hold you to that. It's a promise. If nothing else, fish offer a
One thing I do like about the 9800X3D though, we're only pulling like 50 something watts of electricity. This is significantly less power than the 9950X3D. The 9950X3D is more like a 13900K. Well, I don't think it's that bad, but it's definitely a lot more power than this. And it's more electricity than, well, it's weird because it's a little bit more power than Intel's Core Ultra, but it's less power than Intel's Raptor Lake. So it's like between Arrow Lake and Raptor Lake in terms of how much electricity it uses while gaming. But it is significantly more power than the 9800X3D. So yeah, if you're someone who only wants to play games like Monster Hunter, 9800X3D is a very good choice because, I mean, you guys can see on the screen 50 something watts. I mean, that's like nothing, man. That's less than an old 60-watt light bulb. You can't, yeah, no, you're right. You can use highest texture. So yeah, I want to clarify one thing on the highest textures for the people with 16 gigabyte cards. Yes, you can use the highest texture pack, but what I've figured out is that you cannot, if you're like me, and you're trying to live stream at the same time while also playing the game, you cannot use highest textures while streaming because you're going to overflow your 16 gigabyte limit. Because OBS, to live stream a 4K stream downscale to 1440p, which is exactly what we're doing here, that takes about 3 gigs of VRAM. It's like 2.5 to 3 gigs of VRAM, depending on the scene complexity. So what I ran into the last couple of live streams with the 9070 XT was I learned that while I had highest textures on, when I would get into a monster hunt in the jungle forest, hunting something like Rathalos with all of his fire breath, and he had like the flames and all the textures and everything, that would cause the FPS to tank tremendously. And the reason why I was tanking was because of the VRAM getting full. So definitely, yeah, if you're playing like just on your own, just playing the game normally, like if I wasn't streaming and I was playing the game, yeah, I can run highest textures, no problem, because I'm not using the stream software. But because I'm using the stream software, a 16 gigabyte card is not going to cut it for highest textures. So that's one thing to clarify, because that is something that I learned. Because most of the streams that I did for Monster Hunter were with the 7900 XTX, and that GPU has 24 gigabytes of VRAM. So I never even like thought of like VRAM being a thing, because I had so much VRAM. I could stream the game and still play it at 4K with the highest textures and no problem. But, you know, since moving to a 16 gigabyte card, now I have to be conscious of the VRAM limit. It's only really a problem if you're trying to play the game at 4K and live stream at the same time, though.
City Skylines 2 is a good game to test. It ran much better on the 7950X3D than the 7800X3D, and it utilized all 16 cores. I will also do more testings on the 9950X3D with this game.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, games that can scale beyond 8 cores, the 16-core chips are going to perform better. Those X3, like you just said, 9950X3D, 7950X3D, they're going to outperform the single CCD if the game is able to scale beyond 8. That is another reason why I upgraded to the 9950X3D.
Yes.
Hold on. What did it say? I need to fight 3... I need to hunt 3 monsters in the plains and 5... what was it? The wyvern? Like, winged wyvern? Apparently that's a leviathan. That doesn't count. Flying wyvern. This stuff. A radeon. An arc-veiled. Rathian. Rathalos. So basically, apparently Gravios counts. I would have never guessed. Although it does have wings, and those wings are like tank armor, so it can't really fly, but okay, that's a flying wyvern, yeah. Okay, we got 18 minutes on that. Let's do... Hold on. Let's see, what are people doing? Let's see, is anyone in the lobby doing stuff? Arc-veiled, arc-veiled. Oh, yes. I'm in. I saw the gem. I saw that arc-veiled gem, and I'm like, okay, I'm going in immediately. We're going in. Not even thinking about it. Just go in. Just go straight in. All right, here we go. Help these guys get that arc build. We're going in with a gun lance because it's so good. Alright, this is how the game looks on the DLSS.
I've set a trap.
One thing is it does look softer. Because it doesn't have the upscaling sharpness filter. I can't adjust it. So I'm... Basically, you're at the mercy of the NVIDIA default sharpness. And because this game looks very misty, dusty, overly soft, it has this very kind of like washed out look. That's the reason why I prefer the sharpness that FSR 4 allows you to customize. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Oh, he immediately knocked me down. Why is he, like, facing the back? Like, he's facing the wall. Oh, yes. Well, that was quick. They did all the work. I just kind of showed up and did one cannon run, like, shelling, and that was it. Okay. That was awesome.
It's fast asleep.
Okay. That was great. Even got a dragon attack and handicraft. That's really good. Well, that was so fast. I barely even did anything. Hold on. Did that count? I mean, that counted to my weekly, right? Yeah, it did. Wow. I was only in there for like 2 minutes.
Right.
Wait, what's this optional? Anyone have an arc veiled? Oh, a tempered radeon. A tempered radeon. A tempered gravios. I need that too. Get that tempered radeon. This one, I'm gonna actually have to do work. Because this one is starting off. Like, this is at the very beginning. That one, I just walk in and it's like, yeah, here's some free rewards. You were mental. Yeah, I was the moral support. I just came in, cheered for them, and then it was over. Oh, the people that were asking about 4 sticks of memory. Yeah, you can run 4 sticks of memory with this motherboard. There's no reason why you wouldn't be able to. I mean, just check the QVL list
Commencing quest now. Are you prepared?
on the memory. Why? Oh, we're going the back doorway.
Supply shipments coming in. Hope you find something useful.
The lightning has them amped up. Might be able to use them as a trap.
What's my... Oh, I have negative thunder resist. Oh, boy. Alright, let's see what they're doing. Did they even fight him yet? Looks like I'm the first one here. I like that. I do like the long shelling on this. I'm getting so used to using long shelling style on the gun lance. Oh man. Come on. Did I get his tail? Oh, he hit us. All right. Need to heal up. That guy needs to heal up too, man. Oh, did he trap him? Oh, I got him. It's hard to see. Hit one of his legs. Oh yeah, I knocked him down. This got hurt. Oh, perfect guard. Wait, I don't think that was a perfect guard. I think I took some chip damage. I blocked it. Oh yeah, I got the leg. I think we'll stick with that because I have really weak lightning resist. So, wait, where is the thing? Oh, right there. So I'm gonna keep the shield because if I don't have the shield, I was thinking maybe I should go hunting horn so I can buff the group. But I was like, no, because I don't have good lightning resist. I could end up dying easily if I get hit. What do I think about the Asus Apex? I think if you're someone who wants to do overclocking, particularly on RAM, that's the only thing that I would think that it's good for. Wow. Can't even reach, it's too high up in the air. Oh yeah. Why is he in the air? Okay, I need to knock him down. I need to knock him down. I don't understand what's going on. Just hit him with the slicing. Yeah, knock him down. Wait, what? No, not this. I dodged it by mistake. Oh. I can't hit him. He's like, he's too high in the air. There is no problem with ASRock boards burning up 9800X 3Ds. The only thing that could possibly cause that is people running the VSOC too high. Like if people are running the VSOC at like 1.3 volts, which they shouldn't be doing. That's the only thing I can think of that could cause it to burn up. Otherwise, there's actually no problem. So again, it's people like that kind of thing to me seems like user error. Oh boy, I almost died there. How come one little... There we go. Oh, I'm getting all the things that I need for the wish list. Everything that I collected was from the wish list. Yeah, the stuff explained in the video. Today's video already addresses the whole, like, burning up the CPU problem. The simple answer is do not run VSOC above 1.2 volts. That's the simplest answer. Also, the problem with the ASRock motherboards had nothing to do with the CPUs burning up. The problem with the ASRock boards that was fixed already with the latest BIOS update was, for some CPUs, there was a small percentage of CPUs that lost the silicon lottery, and they required slightly higher voltages to allow the computer to post. ASRock was being too conservative on the voltage, meaning it was not running the voltage high enough for those CPUs, so the system wasn't posting. That was the problem that the ASRock motherboards had. That has nothing to do with the CPUs burning up. The burning up CPU thing means that the user is running the VSOC at like 1.3 volts, and they should not be doing that. I myself am running 1.1 volt, just for comparison.
Hail, Fisher fellow. Are they biting today? Say no more. It's in your eyes. Here, a gift from one rod wrangler to another. A lure. Lures will attract some fish, while others give it the cold fin. It's all about knowing your mark. The lure I gave you excels.
Yeah, they weren't even dying.
Don't try to hide it.
They weren't even dead. They were just not stable. They needed more voltage.
it.
Golden fish favor dark pools, away from the light of the sun. Seek them underground. Now away with you, Fisher Fellow! Away, and may your line grow heavy!
No, no, there's no worry of it like dying. The stock BIOS is not going to run the voltage that high. In fact, the stock voltage is going to use a lower voltage, and the lower voltage. Why is my? Oh, I can't use the net here. Huh. And the lower voltage is what could introduce instability, but there's no cause for concern. Like, I took advantage of, like, all the people, like, not buying ASRock because the local micro centers have constantly been sold out of ASRock motherboards, like the Nova, for instance. So when this whole scare about, like, oh, ASRock boards, as soon as I saw that, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go buy an ASRock Nova because it's so easy to get one. Because of all these people that have no idea what's going on. I'm just gonna go in the back. When everyone's running this way, I go this way.
Can I do base clock overclock for the 9950X3D similar to what I did with the 9800X3D? From 100 to 104.5.
You can try it, but I'll tell you, most likely it will not be stable. Because the CPU has more cores, it is harder for it to run with a higher base clock. Because it has more components. There's just more stuff. The voltage, basically everything has to be divided across more things. So most likely that will not work. You can try it, but I don't think it'll be stable. You can try like 101, 102, 101.5. I think lower numbers will work, but I don't think 1.45 will work. But it doesn't hurt to try it. I mean, the worst thing that happens is, you know, it'll crash or blue screen or something. It's not going to mess up the operating system because it's not a RAM overclock. So, I mean, you can try it, but I don't think it'll be stable. That's my guess. My guess is 104.5 is too much for a 16-core CPU. People panicking, thinking their CPU is dead. Yeah, I know. I know, right? I know. Well, again, it's like misinformation. That's how the internet works. So, like, my thing, when all those things are like, people are complaining on Reddit, it's like, to me, that's literally just background noise. I just tune that out. Because, see, that's the thing, right? Like, if somebody's experienced with building computers, people can say whatever they want. It doesn't matter. It's not gonna shake.
User errors like that get so blown out of proportion these days.
Right, exactly. That's exactly what it is. It's user error. Like the whole thing, the story where they put the CPU in the socket wrong, and it damaged the CPU. It's damaged the motherboard because they didn't have it in correctly. Like, I don't even know how you mess that up when there's a notch and there's an arrow, like, literally pointing, and there's a notch to fit it in. So I don't know how they messed that up. But still, user error getting blown out of proportion, then everybody, like, you know, like, everyone just all of a sudden freaks out, and then it's like an echo chamber, you know, like, of everyone's, oh, ASRock motherboards, oh, the CPUs are dying. I don't care, man. That's like, to me, that's just nonsense. To me, that makes it all the more easier for me to just go walk into a micro center and get the Nova. And that's exactly what I did. I'm like, okay, you guys don't want to buy this? Okay, I'll help myself to one then. So, yeah, as long as you know what you're doing, then you don't need to listen to, like, random people yelling and screaming on the internet about, like, something that has really nothing to do with building the computer, if it's user error. So, yeah, to me, it's all noise. It doesn't really matter. I've built so many computers. I've never had any of those stupid problems. So I'm not saying that I'm perfect. I'm just saying, like, I follow instructions, and I don't, you know, like, I don't build things carelessly or, you know, not paying attention or that sort of thing. But on the flip side of that, I've built so many computers that a lot of it has become almost muscle memory at this point. So that's, I mean, I do have that, so that is something that most people that don't build that many computers, they don't have that. So, you know, I'll admit that I definitely speak from a position of experience, but you know, a lot of people out there that are building computers, they might be building a computer for the first time. So definitely there will be anxiety, definitely there will be questions, and there's no such thing as a stupid question. You know, the only stupid question is the question that's not asked until, you know, something happens. So yeah, no, the Nova is a solid motherboard, guys. Like, there's no better motherboard that you can get for $350. $350 literally gets you everything on the board that you don't even know you need. That's what's crazy about this board. Like, people don't realize that if they want to add 10 gig LAN, they can just stick a 10 gig network card in the bottom slot on the Nova, and now the Nova has 10 gig LAN. But they didn't have to pay for the 10 gig LAN up front if they were never going to use it. So it gives you secret options. I call that secret options. Like the secret ability to gain 10 gig LAN. You know, without having to spend $500, $1,000, $1,100, $700. Because let's list the price points of the motherboards that have 10 gig LAN. The cheapest one is the Pro Art. The Pro Art is about $500. The next one up is the Gigabyte Aorus Extreme AI Top. That one has dual 10 gig LAN, but guess what? It's $700. Then you want another choice with 10 gig LAN, MSI Godlike, $1,100. So the price for 10 gig on a motherboard in 2025, the entry level price is nearly $500. So if you're someone who doesn't need the 10 gig LAN, or you don't know that you will need the 10 gig LAN in the future, if you buy the Nova for $350, you can literally add 10 gig LAN to the Nova for like $80 on Amazon for like a Wavelink or something. You know, like you can, like the Wavelink that we did a video on a few weeks back, you can literally just buy the Wavelink, install it in the Nova's X2 slot, and you have full 10 gig speed right there. And you didn't pay, you know, $700 for like a motherboard just to get the 10 gig LAN. That's what's insane about the Nova. It has what I call secret options. Secret options. They're not immediately there, but they're there if you look for them. That's what's nice about that board. 40 gigabit, dual 40 gigabit USB 4. Now, granted, all X870 boards have USB 4, but you know what you can do with the Nova? Thunderbolt 3, Thunderbolt 4, all of it works. Fully backwards compatible with Thunderbolt 3 and Thunderbolt 4. In fact, we have... Where is it? Right there. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a Thunderbolt 4/Thunderbolt 3 4K 60 HDR capture card. That is the best consumer capture card without splurging on like a Magewell or like a super expensive professional capture card. This capture card, complete with RGB, is an external Thunderbolt capture card. And guess what? It's plugged into the Nova right now, and then it's plugged into the PlayStation 5 Pro on the other end. And we can stream PS5 Pro via the Nova, 4K 60, no problem. Full HDR support. So the other perks of USB 4, because people are like, oh, well, you don't need USB 4. Well, USB 4 has the lowest latency on the planet for USB peripherals. Hence the reason why the Thunderbolt is fully backwards compatible with USB 4. Or should I say, USB 4 is fully backwards compatible with Thunderbolt. So maybe I'll do a video about this topic in the future. We've already covered this like in the past with Thunderbolt add-in cards for the X670E motherboards. We did ASRock, Steel Legend, we did Gigabyte Aorus Master a while back now. But this gives you, the Nova gives you USB 4 as standard equipment. You don't have to buy an add-in PCIe card if you want Thunderbolt capability. You literally have Thunderbolt capability on the Nova for like 350 bucks. You know, like no extra add-ons necessary, no software necessary. It's just there. You just install the chipset as media drivers and it's just there. So this allows Thunderbolt peripherals to work, and this is an external 4K capture card, which means it being Thunderbolt means it has very low input latency, which means if I'm playing my PlayStation 5 games using this capture card, there's virtually no delay on the screen in the computer. So if I'm playing my PS5 game through the PC using the preview window, it is as if I was playing it on the TV. So that is the benefit of using USB 4 that no one ever talks about. This is more like insider secrets. This is like I don't know, like professional trade secrets about like how capture card systems work and like what is actually superior to other capture cards. So, you know, the Nova gets you all of that. This is exactly what I mean when I said it has features that the average gamer doesn't even know they might need to use in the future. So for $350, you can't really beat the value proposition here. If price isn't a factor, would you recommend the Taichi over the Nova? Yes. Well, you know, I actually considered getting the Taichi, and I ended up getting the Nova instead. They serve different purposes. There is one thing the Taichi can do. There's two things that I can think of that the Taichi can do that the Nova cannot do. So let's see how many people really... I'm kind of curious to know, like, people in the chat, people watching the stream, how much they understand the difference between motherboards. So let's see if the chat can tell me. Give me two things, two features that you can do, or two things that the Taichi enables the user to do that you cannot do with the Nova. Separate clock. You mean the external clock? That's one of them. That's exactly one of the two that I was thinking of. So yeah, you got it. One of them you got was the Taichi has external E-clock. Yes, the Taichi is one of the rare motherboards that has the external. Silent as night, got it. Those are exactly the two things that I was thinking of. If you want to do dual graphics cards, you cannot do well, okay. Technically, you can run a second GPU in the Nova, but it's not going to run very well because you're limited to one PCIe lane, or at best two PCIe lanes. So you can kind of run a second GPU. It's not going to run well. First of all, it has to run through the chipset, which means it's going to be bottlenecked, and it's going to like drive too much traffic through your chipset. So that means it's going to slow down your SSDs. It's going to slow everything down because they're all going to be trying to run through the chipset. So you're going to be bottlenecked on that second GPU. On top of that, you're already bottlenecked because it's like PCIe X1 Gen 3 or PCIe X2 Gen 3 if you're on the very bottom slot. The Taichi has the rare second slot, which is an X8 slot. So it shares lanes with the primary PCIe slot, but it is CPU Direct Connect Gen 5 lanes. So that is something that the Taichi gives you. So even if you didn't want to run a second graphics card, you could install an NVMe Gen 5 Express add-in card, and you could add two more Gen 5 SSD similar to the Godlike. You can do that on the Taichi. In fact, if I wanted to, well, I don't have the Taichi with me, but if you wanted to, like the add-in card that comes with the Godlike, if I had the Taichi, I could literally take that same add-in card that comes with the Godlike, I could plug it into the Taichi's bottom slot, and I would get the full lanes of Gen 5 bandwidth. So that Gen 5, that dual graphics card capability, you can run dual Gen 5 graphics cards, which means you could run dual 9070 XTs, or you could run dual 5090s. Now it says really weird to say dual 5090s because I can't even imagine like what the power consumption would be on that. You know, that's like over 1 kilowatt just for 2 graphics cards. So technically you could run dual 5090s with the Taichi, and you can't really do that practically with the Nova. So those are the two main things. The Taichi does not have 10 gig. No 10 gig. So the Nova is better set up to run 10 gig. Because yes, you can add 10 gig to the Taichi, but you got to remember, 10 gig LAN only needs 2 lanes of Gen 3 bandwidth, which is exactly what the bottom slot on the Nova offers. If you were to add 10 gig to a Taichi, you're going to take up that 8-lane slot for just a 10 gig network card, which means now you're running your GPU at 8 lanes, and the rest of those lanes, the other 8 lanes, are going to a 10 gig network card. That's kind of feels bad. You know, that feels like you're wasting resources. So that's why I say the boards feel like they're meant for different things. Like if someone wants to overclock and test like multi GPU scaling, the Taichi is better. If somebody wants a mini workstation computer, the Nova technically is better because you can throw a 10 gig network card in there. You don't need dual GPU. I mean, if you really, really wanted, you could run an external graphics card off of the USB 4. You would have to buy the Thunderbolt enclosure and then plug that in, but that will work. So technically, yeah, you can run external graphics cards off of both motherboards. Yeah, if you're using a 10 gigabit SFP Plus card, is that an X4 or an X8? Typically, those are going to be like X4. But technically, it only still needs 2 lanes of Gen 3. Nova is... That's a good way to put it, actually. Yeah, Nova does feel a lot like the Pro Art. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. Yeah. I never really thought of that, but that's a good point. The Nova does feel like it's geared for people that need, you know, lots of storage. It has 5 M.2 slots. The Taichi only has 4. Building a PC without GPU, then saving when... Yeah, that's a good strategy, actually. I mean, we were talking about this last year when the 9800X3D came out and Intel's Core Ultra came out. I was telling people, you know, now is the time to do your platform upgrade. Keep your existing graphics card no matter what it is. Just hold on to it. Basically upgrade everything else except the graphics card. Because there's no point in spending money on a GPU if you have to buy it from a scalper. Never buy from a scalper because first of all, you're validating the scalper's existence, so they're gonna keep doing what they do, and it just makes them more emboldened to just scalp even more. So, yeah. So having said that, upgrade everything else. Don't buy a graphics card. Just unless you can find one. Unless you can find a graphics card at MSRP, don't even bother getting the graphics card. Just upgrade the CPU. Upgrade the motherboard. Buy a new, like, SSD. The Samsung Gen 5 SSDs just came out. They're now the world's new fastest Gen 5 SSDs on the planet. They've raised the bar. The previous winner, the previous first place was Crucial with the T705. Now Samsung has overtaken them. I mean, it's taken Samsung a long time to get a Gen 5 SSD out. Like a real Gen 5. I'm not talking about that Evo Plus. The Evo Plus is good, but that's not like a true Gen 5. Because 2-lane Gen 5 is the same as 4-lane Gen 4. So it's like, you know, and those are Gen 4 speeds. But the new Samsung 9100 Pro is Samsung's first true Gen 5 native SSD. And boy, does that thing bring the performance. That thing is really, really fast. It's expensive, but it is bleeding edge. You still have a Gigabyte 4090 gaming OC. Fits snugly in the Silverstone. Well, if you have a 4090, you don't need to upgrade your graphics card. There's no reason to upgrade. That's... Okay. Anybody who is on Radeon 7000 or GeForce 40 series, you guys are not supposed to be upgrading. Just FYI, you're supposed to sit this generation out. You're supposed to skip 50 series and wait for 60 series, and skip RDNA 4 and wait for RDNA 5. So, because like you shouldn't have to upgrade every generation, especially considering like how bad the GPU pricing is right now. Toxic, what are you saying? It doesn't matter if the M.2 NVMe is in Gen 5 X2 or Gen... yeah, the difference is going to be like Gen 5 X2 is like half the speed of Gen 5 X4. Okay. Let me do another hunt real quick. So wait a minute. Where's my hunt count right now? I need to do one more plains hunt. Oh, wait a minute. This one, Tempered Kongalala, has a gem. Save that guy. Save him as an investigation. Need to hunt a Radeon or an Arkveld again in the plains. There's a bunch of Hirobami. That's like all they've got over there. A Gravios is in there. That technically counts. Oh man, there's a Rathian Ruby. There's a Rathian with a Rathian Ruby. There's a Radeon. Before we do any of this stuff though, hold on. I need to...
I heard from the others.
I need to fix my inventory. We got 7 minutes left. Just eat new food. What's all... Are you asking the chat? Who here is going to be playing Assassin's Creed Shadows this weekend? Is it just me? Am I the only one that's going to be playing Assassin's Creed Shadows? Is everyone else going to be playing Monster Hunter? Ariel's going to be playing it? Okay, well, I'm not the only one then. Okay, well, let's do this. Let's go find lobby members fighting like Arkveld. Arkveld in... Where is this? In the cliffs. In the plains. I'll take the Radeon. Oh, the Radeon's full. There's full party. Man. Is there still room for this one? Kiryu Kazuma and Gohan. Hold on, maybe I should upgrade this thing. Oh wait, I can't. I need to fight a Gipsephoros. I still haven't fought one. What is this guy using? Man, this dude already has a rarity 7. I need to fix my gear. I need to like... I really need to upgrade my stuff.
What are we making today?
The problem is, I can't do this unless I... Yeah, I can't upgrade this at all. So I'm stuck. Unless I want to upgrade... Oh wait, is he ready?
Where to find me?
Alright, whatever. I'm just ready. Let's just go. Is this guy like AFK? Yeah, like, I don't know what that guy is. I think that guy is like AFK or so. Oh wait, no, maybe he... No, I'm just gonna get a different group. I feel like that guy wasn't even there. Is this the same guy? Alright, well, I guess they found their last person. Nope, that one's still there. I'm probably gonna do the radeon one. Unless someone has a gem. This one has a bunch of rewards. I'll just do the radeon one also.
Are you prepared?
Let's go hunt this radeon. Someone was asking about Intel earlier. Intel's okay, but the problem, see here, the problem is 9950X3D came out. That's the problem. If it was just, like, if 9800X3D, oh, not 9800X3D, I meant 9950X3D. If 9950X3D didn't exist, there could still be, I could still make an argument to buy Intel's Core Ultra over even the 9950X, but even then it's kind of like they're so close to each other that it's kind of a toss-up. They're basically tied, you know, but the 9950X3D just, it makes Intel, not only does it make Intel redundant and kind of pointless right now. Is this lag? Okay, that was weird. He was like frozen in place. Oh, he left the quest. Okay. That's cool. Hold on. So what happens now? Oh, I have to host. I have to host because that guy like made me host and left. Or maybe his game crashed or something, who knows? The problem for Intel is 9950X3D makes Intel stuff feel redundant and pointless, but you know what? It also kind of makes the 9950X feel redundant and pointless. The only scenario where I can see somebody buying a 9950X over a 9950X3D, and this would also hold true for buying like an... Oh boy. Ooh, that was close, man. I almost died. This is because I don't have good thunder resist. That guy literally almost killed me. Hold on. I need this thing. I need your little teeth or something, whatever that is. The problem is 99. So the only people that I can see buying a 9950X or an Intel Core Ultra 9 over a 9950X3D are people who literally do not play games at all. Like, they literally don't play any games at all. All they want to do is build like a workstation, and they don't want to pay for a Threadripper because Threadripper is like an insane amount of money. Those are the people that I can see buying like a 9950X instead, because they can save some money. Because it's like what, like $50 to $150 less versus the 9950X3D. And then they can also save money if they buy the Intel CPU also. So, you know, like, I mean, platform, they cost the same amount of money. So, the motherboards, Intel's motherboards, AMD's motherboards, they all cost the same amount of money. So it's kind of a wash in terms of platform span. Obviously, if someone's already on AM5, they can just buy whatever AM5 processor. They can just carry over their motherboard. With Intel, you have to commit to a brand new motherboard and DDR5 memory. So it's, you know, it's probably going to cost more on average to upgrade if you're on Intel, or if you want to be on Intel. And then there's also the whole question of platform longevity too. So there's a lot of stuff that are not working in Intel's favor right now. Obviously, Intel still has the brand name. They still have the... They still have that working in their favor. Because there's a lot of people out there, believe it or not, that are not tech enthusiasts. They don't know who AMD is. They don't even know if there's an option. They'll just buy, you know, like Intel because that's all they think. I mean, they think that that's the only CPU option. Unless they want to buy a Mac. So, it's those people that'll probably still end up buying an Intel CPU, not knowing. Or they'll just buy like a pre-build, and they'll end up with an Intel inside. That's typically how it works. Most people that are DIY, like they build their own computers, they're probably on AMD. And if someone has a pre-build, there's a high probability that they have an Intel CPU. $9950X because you don't game at all, but I tend to use more than 8 or 12 cores plus 3D wasn't... Yeah. Yep, we need to knock this down. There! Yes, yes. Oh wait, his leg. Da 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 da. Oh. Radeon doesn't like me because I keep attacking him with a grenade launcher. Probably because I'm dealing the most damage to him also. I don't know what the dude with the... There's someone that's like riding around on the back, in the background. I don't know what that person's doing. It's like they're not really contributing. Maybe they're healing everyone. I don't know. What's this? Oh, an ancient wyvern coin dropped. Oh, I thought he was gonna fly off. Oh, he tried to trick me. That was different. I really thought he was gonna fly off. Did he drop anything? No, but he killed this thing. Oh wait, never mind, it's asleep. It's a crocodile. I thought the crocodile died, but apparently it's still alive. Wait, is there something... Is there a wyvern coin over here? Oh! Wow. Actually, I don't need this. I can take my heavy explosion pod. That'll be more useful. Heal me and the alligator. Bleeding pod, is that good? Why am I not able to go? What's going on here? We got a full group. And so far it seems like everyone knows what they're doing because no one's died. That's good. Because I'm not there to tank. Well, I'm guessing someone else has a gun lance, though. There we go. Yes, you can use it. Right now, we're not using it, but you can. I'm using HEVC. There's an arc build over there. Uh-oh. Don't mind me. I got a dragon bone relic. Alright, end this immediately. I don't want that arc veil attacking me while I'm trying to just stand there. I've used AV1. I find HEVC has a better, more consistent bitrate though. AV1 is weird because it, for some reason, it dynamically lowers or increases the bitrate depending on the scene complexity, which is not ideal for streaming.
Reviews for Shadows are out and they seem not bad. But I am anti-woke, so I am a bit torn. They gave Veilguard a 9 though, so I am not sure the reviews are reliable.
Veilguard. Oh, what was the Veilguard game? Oh, Dragon Age Veilguard. Yeah, I was like, wait, what's Veilguard? Yeah, I didn't play that game. Well, I'll be playing Assassin's Creed Shadows because I got the game from Intel. So, we'll be covering it because I got it for free from Intel. We'll be streaming it on the Intel B580 as well as the Intel Core Ultra 9. So we'll be looking at Intel Core Ultra 9 plus the... How are we going to do this? We can do... Well, we'll probably just look at how it runs at 4K. So we'll do... The B580 can't do 4K. So for that, we're probably going to use a different computer. Maybe we'll use this computer for that. The ASRock Nova with the B580 and the 9800X 3D. Something like that will probably what I'll do. And for the Intel Core Ultra, we'll look at the game at 4K. So for that, we'll be using probably the 7900 XTX with the Intel Core Ultra 9 285K. So there'll be two different streams covering Assassin's Creed Shadows. One will be an Intel CPU plus a Radeon GPU. The other will be a Ryzen CPU plus an Intel Arc GPU. I completed 3 quests in the plains. So now I just need to do... Wait, oh, that one wasn't a tempered monster. So I need to hunt a tempered monster, and it has to be a flying wyvern, and I need to hunt like 2 flying wyverns. Hold on, how much material do I have now that I've hunted Radow like twice? Can I craft the Radow armor? Is the Radow... Oh yeah, this stuff. Still need another Radow bolt horn. I'm gonna need a lot. I'm gonna need 5 total. No, 4 plus 2, 6. I only have 3, so I only have half the amount. I still need the Radow gem. So yeah, I'm probably gonna have to hunt Radow like 2 more times. We're gonna have to fight a tempered Radow.
See you later.
For someone who's not interested in overclocking, what motherboard would you recommend? No, it depends on the use case. Okay, CPU. CPU currently Ryzen 9 3600X. And should I upgrade a GPU first or CPU? The CPU is older than the GPU by like a year and a half, or like. When did the 3060 come? It's almost 2 years. There's almost a 2-year difference. Well, I think 3060 was like, what, January 2021? Or something like that? And the 3600X is very old. 3600X was July 2019. 2019. That CPU is from 2019. That CPU came out when Genshin Impact wasn't even out yet. That's how old that CPU is. And also, that CPU came out the year Devil May Cry 5 came out. That was when RE Engine games still looked next gen. Just to give you an idea of how old that CPU is. So, probably the CPU, especially since, like, I don't know what type of GPU you would want to upgrade to. Because 3060 is basically like an entry-level graphics card. That's only good for 1080p. But the platform itself is super old. Like, you could go... AM4, the 3600X is Zen 2, man. Like, we're on Zen 5 now. That's like... 1, 2... That's like 3 generations ago. Will it be a good idea to buy a second kit of 64 gigs to add to the previous one? You can. It's probably not going to run at 6,000 though. You can buy any this if you're not. No, I wouldn't say that. You have to understand what you're going to do with the computer. Like, if you're just going to game on the computer, you can get like whatever cheap motherboard. Even though I refuse to buy a motherboard that doesn't have a postcode debug. So regardless of what motherboard you get, just get a motherboard that has a postcode debug. That's my rule of that's my basic advice for anyone who just wants to know what motherboard to buy, regardless of price point. Just make sure you get a motherboard that has a postcode debug. You're saving yourself a lot of headaches in the event that you need to troubleshoot something. Assassin's Creed Shadows looks great, but you don't think it's comparable to Ghost of Tsushima? It's not comparable to Ghost of Tsushima? I don't understand. Ghost of Tsushima... Well, okay. You can play Ghost of Tsushima in a similar fashion. I feel like Assassin's Creed Shadows is more like a stealth game, although because there's 2 characters... There's 2 different playstyles. Like, one playstyle, you play as you're a stealth, like a ninja, basically. And the other playstyle is like a barge in, head first, you know, like, I don't know, like samurai style. I don't even know if that's considered samurai style, but it's like, that's completely different from stealth. Whereas Ghost of Tsushima, it was up to you how you approach the situation. Like, you could stealth through if you wanted, or you didn't have to. You could just walk right in the front door and just challenge them to a duel. Um... 9070 XT bottlenecking 9800 X3D in Warzone. No, it doesn't bottleneck on Warzone. I just got my X870. Like, the only way it's gonna bottleneck on Warzone is if you're playing the game at 4K. Otherwise, there's no bottleneck. I just got my 8870E Godlike and 9950 X3D. I'll be able to follow the build a new stream PC. You can, but just know that the CCD roles are reversed on the 2 CPUs. So what I do for one CCD is the complete opposite of what I do for the other. Meaning, if I'm overclocking where I prefer CCD 0, if you're overclocking that way on an X3D, it's the complete opposite. You would do that to CCD 1. If that makes sense, because they're backwards, they're the complete opposite of each other. Nova 9950 X3D. Wait, what? Why? I don't understand the comment about dual channel RAM. That doesn't make any sense. That's not necessarily true, because there's more than just dual channel RAM. Like, it depends on the platform. That comment, I don't know what context that comment is. Like, that comment sounds like it's replying to some other earlier comment. I just don't know what it's supposed to mean. 7,000 or 9,000 is over 50% faster than the 3,016 core CPU. Wait, what? Yeah, it. Like I said earlier, the 3600 is like 3 generations back. It's, yeah, that's really old. Because how old is that in years? That's coming up on 6 years. You guys know what I said. A CPU is in its prime if it's less than 3 years old. Once a CPU, this is true for GPUs also. Once a CPU or GPU hits 3 years old, it's considered middle-aged. Once the CPU or GPU hits 5 years old, it's considered elderly. Once the CPU or GPU hits 7 years old, it is now an ancient dinosaur and should be retired. So that gives you an idea. The 3600X is now, it's 5.5, it's almost 6 years old. And remember, we go off of when the CPU was first available. Meaning, if you're someone who bought the 3600X like 2 years ago, too bad. You know, that doesn't mean that it's not 5 years old. It's still 5 to 5.5 years old. So, in July, it will be 6 years old. So, it's not an absolute dinosaur just yet. But, which means tech outlets like Digital Foundry will continue to use it as like a baseline reference test system. Because it's similar to a PlayStation 5. However, it's almost, I mean, it's over 5 years old. So it is considered an elderly CPU at this point. Just keep that in mind. So, yeah, anything above like 7 years, it doesn't matter what the current generation is. If you upgrade from a 7-year-old CPU to whatever the latest one is, that's like you just time traveled into the future in terms of like how much faster the CPU is going to seem. If you're upgrading from a 5-year CPU, that's a massive, massive upgrade. And if you're upgrading from a 3-year-old CPU, you will notice that it's better, but it won't feel like it's like insanely better, if that makes sense. So that gives you guys an idea, because I operate on a 3-year, 5-year, 7-year life cycle in terms of like CPU, GPU, that kind of like the platform's longevity. So once a platform is like 5 years old, I typically upgrade it by then. But like if you want to be on the latest and greatest, you can, but that's when the hobby gets very, very expensive. And the other crazy thing, the people who are most likely to upgrade every generation are they're the same people that are more likely to have the latest and greatest, highest end flagship hardware. I know that sounds counterintuitive because you would think like someone with a 3060, their hardware will become like obsolete faster than somebody with like a 4090, for example, or a 3090. The reality is that the people with the 3090 are the ones that upgrade more frequently than the people with the 3060. This is 100% true. It is observable. Just look at like your own friends that have computers. The ones who have mid-range or lower-end hardware, they tend to hold on to their computers a lot longer than the people who have the higher-end hardware. Meaning someone who has a 4090 is more likely to, even if they can't buy one right now, they're more likely to desire upgrading to a 5090 as soon as they can, whereas somebody who has like a 4060, they probably aren't even going to do anything. They're just going to like, you know, wait until the next generation or the next generation. That's typically how it goes. People who tend to upgrade frequently since they tend to buy and sell their parts on eBay, and people who have higher end hardware tends to play less games. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, so yeah, I would agree with that mostly. Like people who have the highest end hardware, they actually, yeah, you do make a good point. Like the people who have the mid-range hardware, they're actually the ones that are more hardcore gamers. Like, let's be real, the people who have like 5090s and stuff, they're probably not gaming as frequently as the people who have like 60, 70 class cards. You know, like you're probably like no one's gonna go and buy a 5090 to log in and do Genshin Impact dailies or play League of Legends. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not how it works. Like that I mean that's somebody could do that, but it's like I don't know a lot of people that do that. Meanwhile, somebody with a 4060 or a 7700 XT or something, they're more likely to log into the gacha games or play the gacha games or play the live service games like Final Fantasy 14 or Helldivers 2 or whatever the live service game, it doesn't matter, Path of Exile 2, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Diablo 4, Neo 2, blah blah blah, all those games. Like the people with mid-range hardware are more likely to play the live service games, the gacha games, the repetitive games that like make you spend more time as a gamer actually playing games. You know what I'm saying? So that's just how it is. It's weird, but that's just how it is. People with 5090s mostly play game. Most played game is probably MSI Afterburner plus RT. Yeah. Yeah, because the people who have like 4060s, most of them don't even know what Afterburner is. They don't even know what Afterburner is, man. You know, like the people
I haven't played a single game of Fortnite, to be honest.
See? You're just backing me up there. That Oh man, that's yeah. The people who have the 5090s aren't going to be wasting their time playing Fortnite or League of Legends or what's another like popular live service game? I mean, you know what's crazy though? I was just thinking about Monster Hunter. I was like, wait a minute, Monster Hunter is a live service game. People with 5090 can't, they'll actually play Monster Hunter Wilds because Monster Hunter Wilds is so hard to run. So it's like, if you want to play this game at 4K native, you kind of have to have a 5090. It's like, unless you don't care about using like frame gen. I mean, unless you're willing to use frame gen and upscaling and all that stuff. And even then, people with the 5090 are probably still going to use those things just because of how janky this game runs. All heavy gamers are going 9070 XT. Yeah, well, I don't know. Those cards are still kind of expensive. The average gamer doesn't really spend more than $500 on a graphics card. So I'm gonna say that the 5070 and the regular 9070, those two cards at MSRP, those two, although the AMD card is like so close to the 9070 XT, that's the reason why the 9070 XT, man, that one's gonna win like GPU of the year because it's priced so low relative to how much performance it gives you. The 5070 Ti is good, but it's just it's like more expensive. So to the point where it isn't even worth it. That's why. Like, because in my mind, I just, like, when I look at 9070 XT pricing and what it is, I am going to say it again, it's a 4080 for $600. A 4080 for $600. Same VRAM, 16 gig VRAM. Same power consumption, 300 watt power consumption. You know, like, it's literally a 4080. It's like somebody took the 4080 and they slapped an AMD Radeon logo on it and they painted over the green with red and they call it the 9070 XT. That's basically what it is. So you're getting a 4080 for like $600. Like that is really, really good value. So even though if somebody only spends like $500 on a GPU, for $100 more they can get a 4080. Like, to me, brand new with the full warranty. And when I say 4080, I'm really meaning 9070 XT. So they can get a 9070 XT for that amount of money. That to me is kind of like, that's the king. Like that's all the gamers need. That's all the gamers need. That covers 1440p. All the 1440p gamers, it's got them covered. Definitely all the 1080p high refresh people, it covers all of them as well. All the OLED people, it covers them as well. The people who want to do 4K, technically they can use a 9070 XT for 4K, just like you can use a 4080 for 4K. Now, it's not going to be very future-proofed for 4K, but it can actually run games at 4K. And, of course, you can leverage FSR4 and the frame gen, all the good stuff. You know, we've already talked about this for 4K. So, in the end, you know, like, you don't really have to spend more than $600 to get a super high-end computer now. For at least the GPU. So, it is, I have both. They basically run, yeah, I know. They're basically the same, man. I know. See? It is $600. So the problem, okay, yeah, everyone's complaining about the price and stuff. So this is how it always is when GPUs are new. Like, this is not any different from any GPU cycle that we've been through. Like, it's like people are so quick to forget how the previous generation was. Like, you couldn't buy GPUs easily when they come out. That's always how it is, especially the NVIDIA cards. So you always have to deal with the scalpers. The only exception was when the 4080 came out. The 4080 was like overpriced. It was like $1,200. So think of it like this. The 4080 had an MSRP of $1,200. $1,200. 4080 performance. Fast forward to the 9070 XT. Now you get the exact same performance for half the amount of money. So, okay, like, do you see where this is going? Like, to me, it's getting marked up by the scalpers. It's like constantly sold out. This is no different from how it was with 30 series, which is kind of weird. But we're going to talk about this on Tech Thursdays. And the GPU stuff, that's going to improve over time. Q2 is going to be the time for people who really want the GPUs to be on the lookout for them, to try to beat the scalpers to it and get one before the scalpers get one. So April, things will start turning around. So we're only about a month out when we start seeing more GPUs show up in regular supply. But Tech Thursday, we're going to talk about like why this is becoming a problem. And this week, right now, there is something happening in the industry. There's an industry event going on. I don't know if you guys are aware of this. What is the big industry event that one of the 3 big companies that we always talk about on this channel is hosting this week? Who knows about it? What is happening this week? What's taking place from Monday through, I think, Friday? Wizard got it, exactly. GTC is happening this week. And if you watched GTC, Jensen has shown the world what NVIDIA has been doing all this time. And what NVIDIA is prioritizing. And NVIDIA is going all in on AI and enterprise. And now they're moving one step further. They're going beyond AI. They now want to redefine the enterprise computing sector. So they are going to change the way well, they're going to attempt to, and they're probably going to succeed because they have too much support from other vendors. So NVIDIA is going to basically change the way everything works. And this is the reason why you cannot buy a 5090, you cannot buy any of the 50 series cards for normal prices, because they are going to ship more quantities. However, the quantities are still going to feel constrained overall compared to the previous generation graphics cards, because too much of NVIDIA's wafer allocation is going into these business class devices. The big AI chips, the Blackwell chips that are meant for enterprise, the professional Blackwell chips for professional GPUs. You know, we're talking like $7,000, $8,000 graphics cards. Do you really want to spend $8,000 on a 5090? The professional one? Because that's where this is going. And NVIDIA is going so much all in on the AI stuff that they're basically kind of... They're not really... I'm not going to say that they're conceding the gaming market. They don't care about the gaming market. They've clearly shifted their focus. They've clearly changed their priorities. They're not prioritizing the gaming industry nearly as much as they previously were. So what we have seen from them is there is a shift in their attitude toward the gamers. And some of the stuff that we have seen manifest as symptoms of this problem, if we even call it a problem, are things like the infamous black screen issues that plague the 50 series graphics cards, the driver timeout issues in certain games, the crashing problems, the PCI Gen 5 compatibility problems. Like, these are things that you are not seeing happen on AMD and Intel graphics cards. For example, when the 50 series came out, there's all these problems with missing ROPs. There's all these problems with the black screens, the PCI Gen 5 not working, for example, even though it's a Gen 5 device. Meanwhile, 9070 XT comes out. I plug it into my Gen 5 slot, and it works totally fine. Full Gen 5 speed, no problem. It works as expected. I don't even have to think about it. So there's stuff like this that's happening with the NVIDIA cards, and it's showing that the priority in terms of like QC and the drivers and making sure that those things are working properly, clearly they don't care as much, and hence we're starting to see cracks form in the quality of the experience. And that is a very... It can become problematic if they allow it to become problematic, but certainly it feels like the tables are turning or the tides are shifting, and there's a window of opportunity here, not just for AMD, but for others to enter into the GPU market. So, like, for example, Chinese startup companies in mainland China and in other places, they can start trying to push their own graphics cards into the gaming segment. But they're also trying to do the AI stuff because there's a lot of incentive for them to focus on AI, because that's a much greater, like, the ROI on that is so much greater than the gaming market at this point. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. The problem is, what's the saying that... What is a good saying here to describe this? Pride goeth before a fall or something? I don't know. All I'm saying is NVIDIA doesn't care so much about the gamers because they're chasing that AI money. They're chasing their, like, the way that they'll define their company's history and supplant it in the history books as, you know, one of the great companies that changed the world in such a fundamental way. They're chasing that aspect of their existence, and that is the reason why, you know, they don't really care about the gamers anymore. And we're noticing this more and more. And you will see this play out throughout this year. So I guess AMD, they need to try to capitalize on this as much as they can. But AMD also wants in on that AI market. They're just not having nearly as much traction as NVIDIA, because NVIDIA is so far ahead in the software ecosystem. But AMD clearly, so you guys can tell, like, NVIDIA doesn't have the big uplift. Like, Blackwell is not that impressive. It's not a huge uplift over the previous 40 series cards. So, clearly they've slowed down. They don't care as much. They're not trying. It's not like they're not trying. It's just the amount of effort that they're putting into it is, obviously, it doesn't seem like they're bringing their A game the way they normally do. Because they've got so much focus on something else. That's why. That's the answer. What's your opinion on the ROG versus Taichi? They're both flagships, but they're kind of different price points, so you can't properly compare them. GPU sanctions did spur GPU AI. Yes, and that's the thing. Like, the Chinese companies... So here's the thing. AMD, for the most part, has closed the gap between AMD and NVIDIA in the gamers space as far as software functionality goes. Meaning there's nothing... Okay, the one thing you can do on a 50 series card that you cannot do on an AMD card or an older NVIDIA card is the multi-frame gen. But we all know how frame gen is really not that popular. So, like, multi-frame gen is kind of... It's kind of meh. It's kind of redundant at this point. So, from a fundamental feature standpoint, FSR 4 bridges the gap between AMD and NVIDIA in the upscaler aspect. And then the new encoder from AMD has basically bridged the gap with streaming quality. So they're basically at parity. The only thing that NVIDIA is holding on to in terms of a technology advantage, NVIDIA is still, I would say, one generation ahead of AMD in ray tracing performance, but that's literally the only thing they're holding on to at this point. Because if you're comparing apples to apples, so same price to same price, an equally priced AMD, equally priced NVIDIA, there isn't really much of a difference there in terms of what you're getting. So, but yeah, so we won't see a big showing from AMD in the graphics card space until the end of next year. So if you're someone who really wants to see, like, AMD do a massive shakeup in the GPU space, you're going to be waiting until Q4 of 2026. Just FYI. So if you're someone who is sitting on a 7900 XTX, for example, or you're on a 3090 or a 3090 Ti, and you're fed up with how the 50 series launched in the condition that it did, you know, if you're going to hold on to your 30 series card or your RDNA 4, or not RDNA 4, RDNA 3 for another year and a half, well, you're going to see some interesting stuff next year. That's all I can say. That's all I can say. Because you definitely don't want to count AMD out. When they're putting stuff out there like Strix Halo in the mobile space, and they've bridged the gap from a functional standpoint with NVIDIA in the gaming space, yeah, all they got to do is bring the big GPU next year, the really big RDNA 5, and you know it's coming at the end of next year. So that is when we're going to see it. The new 9070 XT, quality-wise, way better than a year ago. Yeah, they're good. So if you're waiting for a GPU upgrade and you're okay with what you have for another year and a half, that's gonna be well worth the wait. Let's just say it'll be well worth the wait. It's gonna be like an RDNA 2 launch all over again. Think of it. History is repeating itself right now, guys. History is repeating itself. We are in the same 2019 period. It's funny because we were talking about the 3600X earlier in the stream. We are literally living in 2019 all over again. The 9070 XT and the 9070 is pretty much the 5700 XT and the 5700 all over again. And the 50 series NVIDIA cards are exactly the same as the RTX 20 series cards. It's like 20 series launched, then RDNA 1 launched, and RDNA 1 didn't compete. There was nothing competing with NVIDIA's fastest card. So it feels a lot like that. It's eerily familiar to that sort of thing. 20 series versus RDNA 1. Fast forward, now it's 50 series versus RDNA 4. So end of next year, you're going to see the really, really big stuff. You're going to see the NVIDIA RTX 60 series and the RDNA 5, AMD's true successor to the 7900 XTX, the big AMD GPU that is meant to go with the high dollar, high end, enthusiast class. We're talking like big power limit, all that good stuff, big VRAM, 32 gig VRAM, that kind of stuff. That's coming next year, at the end of next year. So stay tuned for that if you're someone who's just going to sit on your GPU for another year or more. CPUs are also next year. Yeah, those CPUs you guys talk, Zen 6 is going to be in a similar time frame to those big GPUs next year. So all that stuff is next year, guys. Like, this is 2025 is kind of like a holding year. It's what I call, well, technically not really, because 50 series and RDNA 4 bled over into this year. We weren't supposed to get GPUs this year. We were supposed to get these GPUs in Q4 of last year. So both AMD and NVIDIA delayed the launches for whatever reason. So, yeah. So technically, as far as I'm concerned, 2025 is what I call an off-season year for computer upgrades. There's an upgrade year, and then there's followed by an off year, then an on year, off year, on year, off year. So last year was considered an upgrade year because that was Zen 5, that was the Intel Core Ultra, that was supposed to be the new graphics cards, but they got delayed. So now you have them in this year. You know, now that we've got 9070 XT, there's like literally nothing else. The 9950X3D, that's it. That's the fastest CPU that's going to come out all year, and that's it. We're done. So no more enthusiast grade hardware until 2026 at this point. Yeah, but they're also trying to use different node lines. Like NVIDIA's still on the old line. Like the Blackwell GPUs are still on the exact same node that the Ada GPUs were on. AMD's on a newer node though for RDNA 4. It's on a slightly newer node. So they're trying not to overlap with each other. Well, I don't think they're like aware of that. It's just like I don't know. I mean, I don't know what TSMC can and cannot tell them. So that's basically going to be it for this stream. Yeah, so if you're someone who is going to build a computer, let's just end the stream on this. If you're someone who's going to build a computer, or you're going to upgrade your computer, go ahead and upgrade now. The platform upgrade is available now. Like CPU, motherboard, RAM, all that stuff is available now. Otherwise, you're going to wait until a year and a half from now. You're gonna be waiting another 18 months, or maybe a little bit longer. I gotta think about that. We're in March, so probably a little bit more. Maybe like 19, 20 months. You're gonna be waiting like 20 months for the next best thing. Meaning, now is the ideal time to upgrade if you're still waiting to upgrade, because 18 months is a year and a half. So you really want to wait a whole another year and a half for something that is faster than what is currently available. So that's why now is a good time to upgrade. If you wait until spring of next year, like if you wait another year, at that point, you're probably better off waiting until the end of next year. But it's like, here we are now. Now I think is a really good time to upgrade. Yeah, that's stuff that we'll probably talk about on Tech Thursdays. The thing about the Chinese GPUs, because yeah, I agree. I think that if anyone's going to disrupt the GPU market, it's definitely not going to be Nvidia, and it's probably not going to be AMD either. And I don't think Intel's in a position to do anything either. So if anyone's going to do it, it's probably going to be a Chinese startup or something, like a Chinese company. I can see a Chinese company coming in and revolutionizing the GPU market, at least from a pricing standpoint. So we will see. We'll talk about that more on Tech Thursdays. This stream was not supposed to be this long. We were supposed to only go for like an hour and a half, and we're like almost 2 hours and 30 minutes. So I'm almost a whole hour over. For some reason, every time I do these Monster Hunter streams, it never goes as planned. It always ends up going way, way longer than it's supposed to. But anyway, this was a look at the ASRock Nova with the 9800X3. This is going to be my new test bench computer. So basically, going forward, all GPU comparison videos, GPU reviews, and all that kind of stuff, this is the test platform that I will be using. It will be the ASRock Nova, the 9800X3D, the RAM that's in the system here, and, you know, the rest of the system. That's pretty much it. Yeah, they're not supposed to go that long. So, alright guys, well that's going to be it for the ASRock Nova. I don't know. We're going to do some overclocking guides for the Nova in particular. There's probably people that are wondering, like, how do you overclock using the Nova? It's no different from the others. It's just going to be PBO and curve optimizer, curve shaper, that kind of stuff. The other thing, people have been asking about 4 sticks of memory. So I will test 4 sticks of memory. I know for a fact you can do 96 gigabytes across 4 sticks in this motherboard, no problem. The thing that I need to test is going to be 192 gigabytes of RAM. What I can tell you guys is 192 gigabytes at 6000 was relatively easy to get working stable on the ASRock Taichi. So I assume that it should be somewhat similar on the Nova. ASRock tends to have a very good track record when it comes to running a lot of RAM. ASRock is not the best for running fast memory. And when I say fast memory, I mean DDR5 8000. Because I don't consider anything under DDR5 8000 fast. So all that 7000 stuff, that stuff's slow. And it's completely pointless, especially on Ryzen. The 6000 stuff is fine. 6000 is good. It might even be ideal for most people. 6200, not really worth it. 6400 is probably even less worth it, but there's a lot of memory out there that's rated for 6400. That's the reason why I end up using that stuff. But if you want to run 4 sticks of RAM, like if you're building a workstation with a 9950X3D, for example, the Nova with 4 sticks of memory is probably going to be a good choice, but I'll have to verify that. I'll make a video about it in the future. So yeah, we'll be doing 192 gigabytes. It's going to require that I take out my memory from my Intel computer. So you may not see that video until maybe a week or two from now. Because of Assassin's Creed Shadows, we will be shifting focus to Team Blue in the near future. Intel is coming back. So we will be focusing on Intel with the Intel Core 9 or Core Ultra 9 285K for Assassin's Creed Shadows, and then we will also be looking at the Intel B580 in a future live stream. So why do you feel the need to use 4 sticks of memory? Why do I use 4 sticks of memory? Because it looks better than 2 sticks of memory. The high capacity stuff is for people who need the actual memory. I personally, I don't use 128 or 192. I use 96 gigabytes of RAM because that is the highest capacity you can do with 4 sticks of memory while maintaining higher speeds with relative ease. That is why I do that. So we've done videos on this multiple times, guys. Look at the video that I did with the godlike for the 4 sticks of memory on the godlike. That basically summarizes all the things that I just said, and that goes into in-depth on how that works. So the point is, I like the look of 4 sticks of memory versus 2 sticks. And there's a lot of misinformation out there on the internet. People saying, oh, you can't do 4 sticks of memory on DDR5. That is completely incorrect, and it's misinformation. It's nonsense. So the reason why I do 4 sticks of memory, another reason why I do 4 sticks of memory, is to prove that you can do 4 sticks of memory on a DDR5 platform. That's probably the main reason now that I think about it. So anyway, that's it. That's going to be it for this stream. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We will be live on Tech Thursdays, so if you're new to the channel, do get subscribed. Hit the bell icon so you get notified when I go live. Sometimes we do random live streams like this, like completely out of the blue. Like no one expected a Tuesday live stream. I typically don't stream on Tuesday. But I was like, well, I've put together the Nova. Let's test it out live, make sure everything works, all that stuff. So the temperatures look good. We're running 50 degrees on a 9800 X3D with an uncapped. Well, actually, no, the frame rate is capped. Technically, it's idle, so it's idling. 60 watts, 35% load. The GPU is pegged at like 99% usually. Yeah, so everything looks good. Uh, 6400 CL3212 versus 6000. Because of those cast latencies, the CL28 is going to perform better, but if you're doing higher density, you're probably going to be doing 6400 CL3212, which is what I'm doing. So, I mean, that's another like secret thing too that no one ever talks about. The fact that like you don't even really lose that much performance when you run in the 1 to 2 mode. Like you're losing like 1%. I mean, I've tested both of them. We may need to do another video on that topic, but like the fact that every single laptop runs in Gear 2 and the fact that every Intel CPU runs in Gear 2 is very telling that Gear 1 is not all it's, you know, it's not you must have it, you know, like, so it's like, okay, yeah, 1-to-1 is not really necessary, especially if you're running 6400, because the bottleneck is not the memory controller. That's another thing that people don't realize. The bottleneck is always the memory itself. It's the DRAM chips. The DRAM chips are always the bottleneck. The vast majority of the latency in the system comes from the memory having to do the read, the retrieval of the data, or the write operation. That is the bottleneck in the memory subsystem, not the memory controller, not the fabric bandwidth, none of that stuff. So anyway, now we're gonna end up talking for another 30 minutes. So I'm gonna have to cut the stream here because, yeah, I'm getting distracted continuously by all these questions. So anyway, guys, we will talk more about those topics. So if you have questions on the memory stuff, do tune into Tech Thursdays and ask those questions during Tech Thursdays, because we have a larger audience during the show, and a lot of these questions on memory are very, very good. And I want the larger audience that tunes in on Thursdays to be able to hear the questions and the answers and that kind of thing. So save those questions for Tech Thursdays. Anyway, guys, I gotta get out of here. Thanks for tuning in. I will see you guys on Tech Thursdays. So I'll catch you then. Until then, take care, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.